We're live, we are live. Welcome everybody to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, if you need just a little bit of extra content, college football content to get you through the days, to get you through the nights, during the off season, but we're getting close. We're 8 Saturdays away from college football 2023. I am jacked. I know the Patc community is jacked for this season. Welcome into the house that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kirk Gowdy Avenue. Subscribe to our channel. Hit that like button. Smash it if you like our content. Come on in. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a Patc legend with your comments and your phone calls later in the show. Welcome in July 1st, the birth of our nation. It's 1776. I think that makes us about 247 years, something like that old. I want to start this show off. I know a lot of people, I get it. During Memorial Day, this poem from Johnny Cash hits home. It also hits home with me here on the 4th of July. So we're going to start this special edition, Independence Day edition of Patc with a little poem from Johnny Cash. Let's do it. I walked through a county courthouse square. On a park bench, an old man was sitting there. I said, "Your old courthouse is kind of run down." He said, "No, it would do for our little town." I said, "Your old flagpole is leaning a little bit, and that's a ragged old flag you've got hanging on it." He said, "Have a seat," and I sat down. "Is this the first time you've been to our little town?" "Well," he said, "I don't like to brag, but we're kind of proud of that ragged old flag. You see, we got a little hole in the flag there when Washington took it across the Delaware, and it got powder burns the night Francis got Key sat watching it, writing, "Oh, say, can you see?" And it got a bad rip at New Orleans. When Pakenham and Jackson took it to the scene, it had almost fell at the Alamo. Besides the Texas flag, but she waved on though. She got a cut with the sword at Chancellorsville, and she got a cut again at Shiloh Hill. There was Robert E. Lee, Beauregard, and Bragg. The south wind blew hard on that ragged old flag. On Flanders Field in World War I, she got a big hole from a Bertha gun. She turned blood red World War II, and she hung limp and low a time or two. She was in Korea and Vietnam. She went from our ships upon the briny foam. Now they're about quit waving her back at home. In our good land, she's been abused. She's been burned, dishonored, denied, and refused. And the government for which she stands is scandalized out the land. She's getting threadbare, she's wearing thin, but she's in good shape for the shape she's in. Because she's been through the fire before, I believe she can take a whole lot more. So we raise her up every morning. We take her down every night. We don't let her touch the ground. We fold her upright. On second thought, I do like to brag because I'm mighty proud of that ragged old flag. So happy 4th of July, America, to everybody out there in the PATC community. We had to start our live show right there. Again, as you know how we do it here at Peek Around the Corner, we do the monologue, college football, Peek Around the Corner, cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger. It's early morning, so follow the rules when drinking that coffee. Don't drink too much. Have fun and drink responsibly. Okay, so we got a lot to get through today. San Diego State. Some more news broke last night. Let's go over it. We're going to talk about San Diego State. We're going to talk about the developing story of the ACC. We're still in the middle of the beginning of the story, but I think we might get to the end of the beginning of the story here in the next month. There's going to be more talk, I think, out in public. We'll get to that. But I think there's going to be another public statement from one or more of those AC schools, one or more of those magnificent 7 schools. We don't think anybody at this point in time, like we said in December 26th of 2022, when we said we don't think anybody's going to challenge the grant of rights until the first quarter of 2024. We're still holding to that. But as we said in December 26, 2022, soon there's going to be some public announcement. Somebody's going to say something, and then it happened. 2 months later, Florida State Athletic Director came out and said a whole lot of things. We think something along those lines are going to happen here before the college football season 2023 starts. I think there's going to be a public announcement from one of those ACC schools. We're going to get to it at more during our monologue. And then there's more breaking stories. Another breaking story about the California bill. It's going to get delayed. You know, the bill that's going to have the state of California basically force the state universities in the state of California to have direct payments, revenue sharing plan with the student athletes in the state universities. We're going to get to that as well. We got so much. Put down your comments. I will get to them as soon as I possibly can. Then we'll get to the phone calls later in the show. Let's get to the San Diego State. This was yesterday. Again, from Mark Zeigler, the San Diego Union Tribune, just hours before a deadline to give the Mountain West a 1-year notice of the departure. San Diego State reaffirmed its membership in the conference. This article was published last night. So everything's copacetic? I don't think so. Apparently not. San Diego State contends it never formally left. The Mountain West, however, still insists it has. The flurry of letters, and this is the money shot of the article. It's in the title of our live show this July 4th. The flurry of the letters between the University of Conference continued over the weekend, and now the lawyers are actively involved. Now the lawyers are going to make some money. At issue is a $6.6 million distribution share for the 2022-2023 academic year that the Mountain West is withholding, actively withholding from San Diego State to defray San Diego State's exit fee of around $17 million, pending reinstatement by the board. We'll get to that in a second. We will discuss the status of San Diego State's membership in the conference at the July meeting of our board of directors, said a July 1st letter from Mountain West Commissioner Gloria Navarez to San Diego State's president Adela de la Torre, responding to de la Torre's letter Friday saying the Aztecs were staying in the conference. The letters continue to go back and forth. Okay, so what the commissioner Gloria Navarez is saying to San Diego State, there's going to be a meeting July 17th. It won't even include de la Torre from San Diego State because she was removed from the board per the Mountain West bylaws for a member leaving the conference. So here, the Mountain West is going to have a meeting July 17th. I think everything's going to be decided on that date unless we go to the courts later on. San Diego State Mountain West officials declined comment, as they have throughout the letter writing episode. However, a conference source said San Diego State is considering its options, including legal ones. So San Diego State saying, look, we haven't given our withdrawal notice, not a notice of action. We think we are still in this conference. Mountain West is saying, no, you're not. They're already withholding revenue that's supposed to be going to San Diego State. It's already taken place. So we have a big disagreement here, ladies and gentlemen. The Aztecs will spend the 2023-2024 in the Mountain West. That is not disputed because any resignation would not take effect until July 1st, 2024. So, with the Mountain West Conference right now, their stance is on July 1st, 2024, 63 days from now, 62 days from now, you are not part of the Mountain West Conference. So what will be the home of San Diego State come July 1st, 2024? Back to the article. But where it plays after that remains uncertain as it awaits a belated invitation from the Pac-12 or reinstatement from a conference it claims it never left. And maybe that happens July 17th. I'm very eager to, again, read your comments, listen to your calls on how you think this is going to play out. At last count, at least 6 letters. 6 letters have been exchanged over the past 3 weeks. They started cordially between de la Torre and Navarez. Now attorneys are involved, and the language is filled with legalese and a more acerbic bite. The university released the first 4 letters the Union Tribune obtained the 5th and 6th on Monday. We're not going to go over those letters again. We've done those in prior live shows and episodes. So we're going to skip that part of the article. We do have a link provided in the description. You can read all the letters. Once again, they're available for you. Here's the question. Here's the question that I have for the PATC community. So why the hardline approach by the Mountain West? Why are they being so hard on this? Why don't they just accept San Diego State back? Once they leave, you're going to get the $17 million anyways. So why are you being so hard on them? So why the hardline approach by the Mountain West to what many regard as its marquee member? One that just 3 months ago elevated the conference profile to new heights with a trip to the national championship game in men's basketball. Why the hardline, Mountain West? I got a crazy theory. No intel. We'll get into that in a little bit. There's got to be a reason. They go through some of the options right now here in the article. There could be several strategies at work. One could be simple envy and retaliation over how San Diego State approached a potential departure to a power conference. Figuring the Aztecs have one foot out the door and already, so why play nice? That could be. That could be playing a part in this. But I don't think so. One could be gaining leverage should San Diego State try to negotiate a lower exit fee if a Pac-12 invite for 2024-25 comes later this summer. Yeah, leverage. It could be a leverage ploy and why Mountain West is being so tough on this. Another might be an attempt to broker a long-term commitment from San Diego State to the conference. Now, this is an interesting one. Another motivation that the Mountain West could have up their sleeve, why they're being having a hard line on San Diego State, it might be an attempt to broker a long-term commitment from San Diego State to the conference, further milking the Aztecs for the NCAA tournament shares of men's basketball and their value to television partners. Their 2023 NCAA run earned the conference an estimated $10 million over the next 6 years. Hang with me here. What if? What if the Mountain West is saying, well, we really don't have anything to lose unless they take us to court and they sue us for damages. What else? Look, maybe, just maybe the Pac-12 implodes. Maybe maybe the Mountain West is hearing some things that are even worse than what we're hearing at Peek Around the Corner, and what we are hearing is pretty bad when it comes to these Pac-12 media negotiations. Maybe the Mountain West is taking a shot. Saying, San Diego State, you left our conference. You want back in? Okay. But you're going to have to come in with a penalty, or you have to come in, not so much with a penalty, but even a longer commitment to our conference. As we try, if the Pac-12 implodes, completely implodes, they lose 4 corner schools, Big 12, they lose a couple to the Big 10, it shatters in a million pieces, and the Mountain West is now working with their media partners, try to pick up Pac-12 pieces to become the biggest, strongest G5 conference in the country. Could be. Maybe. Is that a crazy theory? Back to the article. Also unclear is where CBS and Fox, the Mountain West linear television partners, stand on this. If San Diego departs the conference, the networks can restructure the media rights contract that runs through 2025 and 2026, and theoretically pay the remaining members less without Aztecs in the San Diego market. So we don't know. I don't know. Maybe the Mountain West has an inkling of where CBS and Fox stands on this. They have games played at CBS Sports. What if the Mountain West believes that they're going to have to go back to the table with Fox and CBS Sports, and each of these schools get a reduction in media payouts because of the departure of San Diego State? Before each season, CBS and Fox select which regular season conference basketball games they want to air on their various channels. All 18 San Diego State games were selected, including 2 on the big boy CBS and 1 on Fox. Second place Boise State had 12 of 18 selected, counting both against the Aztecs and none on major networks. San Jose State had only 6. Whatever the Mountain West's motive for taking such a hard line against San Diego State, whatever their motive, it represents a stark and sudden shift in tone. Just months ago, Navarez was strutting around Houston's NRG Stadium at the Final Four wearing a bright red blazer, singing the praises to the national media about the first Mountain West school team to get past Sweet 16. There's so much excitement, especially in the Mountain West office, because we're so good in basketball, and to finally break through and get this far is just amazing. Navarez told the Associated Press in Houston. Couldn't be happier for San Diego State. We're super excited. This is the biggest national stage in college basketball and across a lot of other sports. For us to have a team, San Diego State, in this moment, on this stage, you can't buy this kind of advertising. At Football Media Days last July, former Mountain West Commissioner Greg Thompson was asked about San Diego State potentially being swept up by the Pac-12 in the next wave of conference realignment. I hope they don't leave, Thompson said. They're a great member to the league, and it's a tremendous market for us. But I would say congratulations. Thanks for the time, but you have a great opportunity. So Brett McMurphy puts out a tweet late last night that basically encapsulates everything that Mark Zeigler, the author of the article, San Diego Union Tribune, said in this piece. Brett McMurphy tweeted out, Mountain West's latest letter to San Diego State on July 1st. Just July 1st, that's 3 days ago, ladies and gentlemen. 3 days ago. Mountain West's latest letter to San Diego State on July 1st indicates the Mountain West considers Aztecs formally gave notification they were leaving the league in 2024, as Zeigler reports. The Mountain West is withholding $6.6 million as part of San Diego State's $17 million exit fee, due by July 1st, 2024. However, San Diego State claimed on June 30th it did not officially notify the league it was withdrawing. The league board of directors will meet July 17th to discuss the matter. So, July 17th, we may have July 17th, the Mountain West board is going to be talking, the presidents are going to be talking, and this story might just come to an end, right? The Mountain West says, okay, come back in. You're a member of this conference until you give us your official exit, and then we'll take the $17 million from you. That could be what happens here. July 17th, the story ends. Or if that's not what happens on July 17th, then we're probably going to courts. We're probably going to the courts, because it sure sounds like there's a big disagreement on what that June 13th letter meant when San Diego State sent it off to the Mountain West, 11 presidents, and to the commissioner. So a lot of drama behind the scenes, Pac-12 saga. Will the Pac-12 even expand? Will they hold together? We're still waiting on that. The latest word that we got at Peek Around the Corner, we shared it in an episode 2 days ago. What the Pac-12 presidents was presented on last Friday, wasn't much. Not a whole lot of detail. The details aren't going to leak, PATC community. They're not going to leak because there wasn't much details. Largely streaming deal. cobbling together some linear partners, smaller ones. And I don't think, I have a hard time believing that type of deal is going to push the Pac-12 past the finish line when it comes to getting all 10 members on board to sign the grant of rights. Not what we've heard at Peek Around the Corner. So, hopefully for George Kliavkoff's sake and for those who want the Pac-10 schools to hold together, to get a good enough media deal, to hold together, hopefully George Kliavkoff gets a better situation here in the next couple weeks and get that presented to the Pac-12 presidents. If you notice after that framework was presented to the Pac-12 presidents, once again, it's absolutely devoid of any positive talking points surrounding that Friday presentation. Nobody has come out. No one has said any positive stuff. Not from the commissioner's office, of course, because they never talk, it seems like. None. It's just another log on the fire. It's just another indication. It's just another dot to connect. That what they were presented on Friday wasn't good enough. Not yet. Not yet. They were expecting more. Now this has happened to the Pac-12 presidents, to the athletic directors multiple times during this process. It happened again on Friday. I know there's been some reports out there stating this is a step in the right direction. It's not what we are hearing at Peek Around the Corner. It wasn't much. It wasn't much. They weren't given much on Friday. So do not expect much to be leaked, because there's really nothing to be leaked. I'm just saying that. I would be, you're not going to wake up tomorrow morning on July 5th and find out exactly what was in that presentation. Unless you want some blank pages. Okay, so I'm going to read your comments and thoughts when it comes to the San Diego State situation. What conference are they going to be? They're probably going to be in the Mountain West Conference. Well, they're definitely going to be for 2023, but what about 2024? Are they going to eventually get an invite from the Pac-12? Or is the Pac-12 going to implode? Or what if the Pac-12 stays together with those 10 schools, but they don't send invites out, and now San Diego State has to go back to the Mountain West? We shall see. Jim Williams, a friend of the program, puts out a tweet this morning, and I absolutely 100% agree. Sometimes me and Jim disagree. If you don't disagree with me at times, there's something wrong with you. Let's put that out there. Jim says the Big Ten targets are University of Miami and UNC. I was told by a solid source at a Big Ten Michigan school. Washington and Oregon are fine candidates, but we are looking south. It would be great to set up shop in the heart of SEC country. We know the gore with the ACC is very complex, but we have time to wait and see how the challenges work out. Now, for most of us, especially in the PATC community, this is all what we've talked about before. Nothing new here except for I wanted to jump in on this tweet from Jim Williams because we believe here at Peek Around the Corner. Now, we have always said that University of Miami is the most gettable school of the ACC schools for the Big Ten. Now, it might not be Big Ten's number one target, but Miami of Florida is the number one. They are the chalk of all the ACC schools to be favored to become a Big Ten school some years down the road. More than North Carolina, more than Virginia, more than Florida State, more than Georgia Tech, more than Virginia Tech, on and on and on. University of Miami is the absolute chalk of all the ACC schools that become a Big Ten member. Now, if you've been part of this community since we gave birth to it, we've been saying this since day one. North Carolina, absolutely top target, along with Miami and of course with Notre Dame. North Carolina and the Big Ten, they've been talking for years and years and years and years. The Chancellor Guslowich and the athletic director, Bob Cunningham. Bob Cunningham has a relationship with Jim Delaney. They've been talking forever about North Carolina potentially becoming a Big Ten member. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. The SEC is going to want North Carolina. Parts of North Carolina's fan base, faculty, alumni, donors are going to want to be part of the SEC. I'm not saying that North Carolina is going to be part of the Big Ten, but they are a top target. Miami and Florida, North Carolina, Notre Dame, those are your top targets. Of course, Notre Dame is number one. But those three are the top targets. Without question, in ACC country, a source told Jim Williams this. We've had multiple people tell us this. It wasn't anybody at Michigan, but this has been, take it however you want, and you can disagree with Peek Around the Corner, and let me have it. Let me, if you think someone else is a top target at this point in ACC country, let me know in the comments or a phone call. But Peek Around the Corner, they're Miami, Florida, North Carolina, Notre Dame. Now, can the Big Ten get 2 out of those 3, 3 out of those 3? We shall see. We don't know at Peek Around the Corner. But Miami or Florida is the chalk of who the Big Ten wants to have, and they're going to be able to get into the Big Ten Conference. Now, Washington and Oregon. You all know how PATC, we've had the Big Ten, again, it's really underestimated out there still today about the interest of the Big Ten has with Washington and Oregon. We've been saying this since the birth of our channel. Well, before that, before anybody knew USC was joining the Big Ten, we were being told that Washington and Oregon would be additions, target additions, sometime down the line. And since we started this YouTube channel, we've been saying in 5 months or 5 years from now. It's all about cost benefit for the Big Ten. When is the best time to add a Washington and an Oregon? It could be 4.5 years from now. It could be 4 years from now. It could be 3 years from now. It could be 3 months from now if there's a Pac-12 implosion. It's about cost, benefit, risk, all of that analysis for the Big Ten. But once again, the Big Ten is not going to a 21, 22, 23, 24 school conference, 25 school conference. If Immaculate is out there in the chat room listening. The Big Ten Conference is not going to go to a massive super conference with only 2 schools west of Lincoln. So, Washington and Oregon are still in the catbird seat. It's all about timing. Timing is everything. So we shall see how this Pac-12 media rights plays out for the Pac-12. Will they get poached? Will they get cracked open by the Big 12? And then what will the Big Ten do with Washington and Oregon? So yes, the Big Ten is looking south. They're looking southeast. There's no question about it. I think everybody agrees with that. There's going to be some disagreement on the Big Ten top targets. We at PATC happen to agree with Mr. Williams, University of Miami, Florida, North Carolina, and of course Notre Dame are the top targets of the Big Ten. And I'm going to get to your comments and phone calls as soon as I can. Once again, if you're new to the channel, peek around the corner, subscribe to the channel. It's the way you get notified of our upcoming live show in episodes. Smash that like button if you like our content. It helps with the algorithms of YouTube so very much. We appreciate all your support. And we are an independent YouTube channel, so if you want to make sure your comment gets read, put down a little donation, hit that $sign. You know how it works. Let's get to one more story before we get to your comments and phone calls. Late last night, breaking news, USA Today, Steve Berkowitz, California bill that will allow college athletes to be paid by schools delayed into 2024. We have covered this California legislation in earlier live shows and episodes. A bill in the California legislature that would create the opportunity for college athletes in the state to receive revenue sharing payments from their schools will be delayed into 2024. The National College Players Association Executive Director, HUMA, whose California-based organization advocates on behalf of college athletes, said that the bill sponsor, Assemblymember Chris Holden, has decided to make the proposal a 2-year bill. This will come at least as a temporary relief to the NCAA and schools across the country. They fear that if California were to pass this bill into law, it would lead to similar measures being passed across the country, fundamentally changing college sports. So that's a relief, because I don't want, the host of the show, Greg Flugard, does not want state governments directly being involved in dictating how much of the revenue these state universities' front porch, these athletic departments, have to give to student athletes across their sponsored sports. I don't want that at all. I think that is horrific. I don't want the state governments deciding that. They're only going to screw it up more. So I hope that California bill never gets to light, never becomes the law of the state of California. So I'm glad that was delayed another year. Now, I do want direct money coming from the schools and conferences, both going to the student athletes, raise up their compensation level throughout all the sports. I'm all for that. I'm for employees. I'm for contracts. I'm for CBA, collective bargaining agreements. I am not for state governments dictating the percentages of revenue going to each sponsored sports. No way, no how. That is not the state government's job, business. They would only screw it up. That's just my opinion. Okay. Yeah, one more thing. And then I'll get back to Carson. Thank you for coming in the PATC community. Big Ten has enough bad football teams. We don't need North Carolina. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate your generosity. Big Ten would take North Carolina in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. Absolutely. The biggest state in the country besides what? Texas and Florida, that the Big Ten doesn't have a school in the state, North Carolina. Yeah. They're targeted. They're going to be targeted by the SEC and the Big Ten. But make me no mistake, North Carolina, top target for the Big Ten, along with Miami, Florida, and Notre Dame, of all the ACC schools. Thank you, Carson, for the donation. Carson doesn't want North Carolina in the Big Ten. Okay, let's get to other comments. And then we're going to open up the phone lines in a little bit. Again, we believe here at Peek Around the Corner, been given a little bit of a tip. I think there's going to be a public statement from one of those magnificent 7 ACC schools. It's going to be more of a how do you say it? Pushing the envelope, pushing the message of things have got to get better. Things have got to get cleared up. We can't be like this. Our university can't. We want to compete at the highest levels, and the ACC contract does not let us do that, especially when these student athletes are going to start getting paid directly by the schools and or conferences, or both. So, one of those, more than one of those Magnificent Seven schools, I think are going to say something again here in the next couple of weeks. Keep that in mind. Keep your head on a swivel. Jeff Olson, holy smokes. Monovision, Mr. Buckeye, intent is not action. Alan Tran, so San Diego State is kicked out of the Mountain West Conference. Yes, they are. The proceedings have started. As of right now, July 1st, 2024, San Diego State doesn't have a home. Now, maybe all that gets rectified. Maybe all that gets rectified in the July 7th meeting, Mountain West meeting. This could be over here on July 17th. Monovision says North Carolina right now is below Notre Dame and Miami. UNC has been on the Big Ten list for what, the last 20 years? Yeah, it's been a long, long discussion. A lot of discussions on where North Carolina would be. Above Miami, below Miami, Notre Dame. Okay, let's get to your phone calls. If there's any out there, welcome July 4th, special edition of Peek Around the Corner. I know a lot of you are too busy. You're going to be in and out of this channel. You're going to maybe watch it hopefully later tonight. I do appreciate any time you can spend with us here on July 4th. I hope you guys all, guys and gals, hope you all celebrate and have a great time with your family and friends and your loved ones. We thought it'd be kind of neat to have a show here on July 4th in the morning. The phone lines are now open. 763-260-1333. I will continue with your comments. With your phone calls, you can talk about anything college football, San Diego State news, the ACC story, the Pac-12 saga, which we didn't really even touch upon during the monologue. When are we going to get a resolution? Does Colorado keep having this patience, waiting for real numbers to come? What about President Robbins of Arizona? He wants to see real numbers. He hasn't seen them yet.
Call from
Monovision.
Monovision, what's going on, Mr. Buckeye? The floor is yours.
Well, Greg, I'm just enjoying this Independence Day.
Yes.
And speaking of independence, no future big expansion without Notre Dame.
Got it.
I agree. I think North Carolina is slotted below Miami simply because the Big Ten wants a Florida market. I think that takes precedent over, although UNC has been a prized, the Big Ten has lusted after UNC since Jim Delaney was commissioner.
Yep.
But I do think they rank below Miami just because they want a Florida university. And I know a lot of people say Florida State. I think the Big Ten is after Miami more than Florida State.
Yeah, and I think Miami, Florida is way more gettable. And exactly. I'm not even sure I don't know how much effort it's going to take. I'm not sure how much effort the Big Ten is going to have to put out to get Miami of Florida once this thing implodes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they could feign interest in Florida State to get SEC to relent on something else down the line. But, I think in the ACC, their top targets are UNC, Miami, Georgia Tech. And I know you disagree with me on Georgia Tech, but I want to put some stuff out there, Greg.
Got it. Put it out there.
Georgia Tech still is in the Atlanta market. It's one of the fastest growing media markets in America.
Yes.
Georgia Tech has not been a great team in the last 20 years, but Georgia Tech actually has a claimed national football championship in the 1990s. The last time Notre Dame has one is in '88.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's tons of tradition at Georgia Tech, too. John Heisman coached there. Bobby Dodd coached there. Heisman winners have won. I mean, I think it's still a target for them. And it also gets them into Georgia for a recruiting ground. Second point I would make, I think all three of those schools would be excellent for Notre Dame as partners in their division of the Big Ten Conference. Bob Thompson has said that the most important things are brands and rivalries. Adding a Miami to the Big Ten Conference, you have rivalries with Penn State. You have rivalries with Maryland. If you add Notre Dame, you have rivalries with Notre Dame. You have rivalries with Nebraska. Lots of rivals in the Big Ten for Miami. Georgia Tech, Notre Dame. I still think Purdue versus Georgia Tech would be a great rivalry in the Big Ten. I know a lot of people don't think that, but I think it would. But I do agree. I think I think Oregon and Washington are below UNC, Miami, Georgia Tech, and Notre Dame. I think they fall below that.
Well, repeat that? Can you repeat that?
Yeah, I think Oregon and Washington are below Notre Dame, Miami, and Georgia Tech, and UNC. I think they're below all those schools in terms of who the Big Ten wants. I know Fox executives want Oregon, but at the end of the day, if Fox executives made that decision, they'd already be in the Big Ten. They don't. It's the presidents who make that decision. And
but you know how much how much I despise that logic, though, right? Because I've said that before. If it was ever going to happen, it would have already happened. Because it hasn't happened yet, it's not going to happen yet. I can't, because things are always changing and moving. It's like North Carolina. Why isn't North Carolina part of the Big Ten? North Carolina's not going to become a part of the Big Ten because if they were ever going to be part of the Big Ten, it would already happened by now. I kind of always grimace when I hear that. Oregon and Washington.
I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying it's impossible, Greg. I'm saying you can't put too much weight on what TV executives want.
Yeah.
Presidents still have the ultimate vote on who joins the conference.
Sure. You're correct on that. Okay, I'm just saying, from our perspective at Peek Around the Corner, there's heavy interest in Oregon and Washington from the Big Ten. But I get it. Look, and we've said this before, the Big Ten Conference is not going to become a 24-team conference with only having 2 teams west of Lincoln. Just wait.
I don't disagree with that.
Just wait. I mean, there's a lot of there's going to be a lot of knives, daggers in the back, and people are going to be the press. Some parts of the press are going to be just on this story about what UCLA and USC student athletes have to go through for travel. And I know that Oregon's a long ways away from Los Angeles. I know Seattle is. I get it, but they're all in the same time zone. You can deflect some of that, and you can have some scheduling arrangement that can cut down a little bit on the miles. The Big Ten, and the Big Ten has known this even before USC and UCLA were announced. They knew they're going to have to do something more in the Pacific Coast, but they weren't. The plan was never to go past 16 on June 30th, 2022. It was always UCLA +1. Fox Sports and Big Ten settled on UCLA, and then they were going to go sometime within the next 5-6 years, Washington and Oregon, possibly Stanford. It hasn't happened yet, but I would just guard against the argument that because it hasn't happened yet, it won't happen. I would just guard against that. That's all.
Right. And I'm not disagreeing that they're not candidates. I just think they fall further down the list than the ACC schools in Notre Dame.
Well, Georgia Tech is for me is a huge reach.
I hear you. I hear you. You think because they're so far behind UGA,
yes,
that they're
not
for
Big Ten. But Big Ten always makes sure they get the top dog in wherever that dog lives. You know what I'm saying? And Georgia Tech is not anywhere near the top dog. No pun intended, Georgia Bulldogs. But they're, it's in a huge market, huge recruiting base, but it is so far off the top cream of that market that I don't think the Big Ten's going to take much of a look at it.
We'll have to agree to disagree on that one.
Got it.
I think the pros outweigh the cons in that part. And then one more thing before I get off here. You mentioned the Pac-12 media deal. I just wanted to correct one thing you said. You said linear partners. They actually said linear concepts.
Yeah.
Concepts.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily a partnership. That could be putting Apple, getting all the rights and putting a game out on the open market for sub-licensing. They don't have to have a partner to do that per se.
You're right.
So
you're right.
This could still 100% be Apple 100% taking the Pac, and then agreeing to guarantee to sub-license 1 or 2 games per week.
You are absolutely correct. I have to be careful by saying linear partners. I do think, though, the little bit of a nugget that we did get, I honestly don't think Apple is going to own 100% of this. I think there's going to be some guaranteed content somewhere on a linear platform that Apple isn't going to sub-license out. I am not sure. I'm not 100%. But I think that's where it's going. But again, there's not a whole lot of meat to the bone. We were very disappointed. We said, we thought we were going to have something, and then it was like, there isn't anything there really. So,
right, a promise of a promise of a promise,
Yeah.
But that seems to be the way things are going in the Pac. But
yeah.
That's it. I just wanted to put that out there. I still think the ACC teams are ahead of Oregon and Washington. I still think Utah and ASU are still candidates. I'm not ruling anybody out as candidates per se. I'm just saying that there's a tiered importance list, and that's going to be factored in first above all things.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys have a great 4th of July. Send them a little general my love. Tell her to have a great 4th, Greg, and
beautiful.
I'll catch you on the other side.
Great call, Monavision. Appreciate it, good sir. Great call.
Call from
Immaculate.
Immaculate is in the house. Brian, what's going on, sir? The floor is yours.
Well, good morning, Greg. Good to talk to you again. It's been a
you too,
while.
Sir.
Happy Independence Day to you.
You too, sir.
And how great would it be if we could celebrate our independence by celebrating the loss of Notre Dame's independence, huh?
Oh, nice twist on words there.
There's my spice for the morning, but
I think someday it's going to happen. Someday
It's
soon,
coming.
I think.
It's nothing to celebrate. I do feel for them, and that this has been a huge tradition of theirs for a long time. But they're going to have to start facing it that this is going to be inevitable.
Yeah. The world it's going to keep changing. It's going to get more and more difficult for an independent school, I think.
Yeah, and it's speeding up. It's interesting that you're now ready to fully engage in the talk about the ACC. I know a little while back, brought it up a little bit, and it was kind of, back burner stuff because there's really no talk about it. But now it's all out there.
Yeah. Well, we're going to start talking about it more and more. I just didn't want to, a lot of people were saying a whole bunch of very aggressive timetable ACC stuff, right? On Twitter and message boards. And we weren't hearing any of that, right? So I had to, this whole thing where Greg Pflugar throws everything out there, in case something sticks. Well, I actually think we do the opposite. We put a lot of, we're hitting the brakes a lot of times. We're telling people to slow down because things are not where you think they are. So yeah, we've been, I think we've got the story right so far. And I do think there's something coming up here, Brian. We've had a tip. There's going to be some more public, how do I say it? Somebody's going to come out and say, this isn't working for us, brother, basically once again.
And it's interesting that you get a tip on that, because what it says, if true, is that these type of public statements, while they may come off as off the cuff, they're never really off the cuff. They're planned, they're prepared. The person that is going to go through is chosen.
The Florida State comments on February 24th, 2023 by the athletic director, all of that was planned. None of that was just, let's wake up this morning and voice our discouragement of what's going on with the ACC contract and how we can't compete because we're not getting paid that much money. All of that. In fact, if you go back, well, you don't have to, but December 26, 2022 show, we said something was going to happen here soon. Someone was going to come out and say something, and it happened. And we're saying that again today at July 4th. Here in the next couple weeks, we believe something else is going to happen in regards to that.
Yeah, these type of public statements, they work really well in combination with some type of discussion going on behind the scenes, in which they try to entice some pressure upon some of the parties in the scene by putting something out there, and it causes pressure from outside forces on those. And what you're seeing probably is, I don't think it's direct pressure intended on the ACC. I think it's actually pressure on like ESPN. The biggest holdup in this probably is the SEC, because ESPN's not going to help with this unless they get most of those schools that they want over into the SEC. And the SEC is not going to want to add a whole lot, so you got to get them to somehow say yes. So, in terms of the money and how to do this, I think all the talk from the Big Ten is just meant to pressure. Like, hey, if you let this thing drag out, whether through legal means or by 2036, we're going to take UNC. We're going to take Miami. We might take Florida State. You might take all these schools, because once they're free and clear, how many of them are going to choose the Big Ten? So it's kind of spurring, in my opinion, the SEC, ESPN, and whatever to put together something so that most of those schools can come right on over. Because if you leave it wide out in the open, I actually do think that UNC picks Big Ten over the SEC. But if it happens more in the short term, where they can make more and less opportunity cost, like for every year that they make this happen sooner, that's all that money extra that they make. So if you can make them a deal sooner rather than later, then I think UNC might be open to the SEC. And that's where I think the real story is. And that's why it's been quiet and the Pac is loud. UW and UO, I do think that eventually they'll be in the Big Ten, but it's not really a great grab until it's right before when you're able to have the Power 5 votes for all the new mechanisms. Otherwise, you're kind of stretching to make the money work. And yes, it's great for USC and UCLA, but it's not good until that last moment, and then you want to take that. So that's why I think Yormark's a smart man. If I was in his position, I would take UW and UO or whoever wants to come over if they say, we need to know that if we leave in the future here in the short term that we're not going to be charged a lot. I think you do it because it breaks the Pac. So that could be what I think that you might actually see the UWO move to the Big 12 for, I don't know what they need, 2-3 years. If this network deal does not come through and they just like, no way. So it's very interesting. And the fact that the ACC talk is coming up, I put that all on Herb Street.
Yeah.
I think when he said at least 20, that queued it up. That queued it up because at least 20 means it's 24, but I don't want to say that in public.
Yeah.
To me, that's what at least 20 means. Is I don't want to say this because it's going to come off as crazy talk, but this is where it's at, folks.
And the most interesting part of that, in my opinion, was he said it's not going to happen this year, but next year we're gonna get a more clear understanding. I'm paraphrasing, but he said we'll get more of an understanding where all this is heading next year, and that's what we. I think we're going to find out early in 2024, if not before. If the time schedule gets pushed up, it gets pushed up. But I think some point from 2024, first quarter 2024, we're going to at least find out how these ACC schools are going to go about challenging the grant of rights or working on a settlement or this dissolvement issue, dissolving the conference. We're going to find out what avenue these schools are going to take probably early in 2024, and maybe we'll find out earlier than that for whatever reasons. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it's going to start to become more clear before that, but they're not going to mess around during the football season too much. They've already broken so much tradition in terms of when realignment talk and discussion can happen.
Yeah.
That's been the most startling part of this, but they're still not going to break with having so much of this going on during the season, I think. I could be wrong. We could be so short on time that it does, and it just continues right through the season. But, they have to do it in 2024, though, if they want that 2-year term to 2026. A lot would have to happen between now and 2024. And just I know it's not the sexy talk, but there's just as much to watch down in the G's than there are in the P's. And
what was that?
The G's instead of the P's, the G5 instead of the P5. I don't even say the numbers anymore because it's all going to change.
Yeah.
But I think that we might see more in that regard. I think that this whole play in the Mountain West, there's other schools that don't necessarily want to be in the Mountain West. They got turned down by the American. But if the better brands of the Mountain West are all like, all right, this is getting ugly in here, we're ready to go, I think you could see a large movement from the Mountain West to the American, and that's what really starts to kick off the race.
Yeah, I agree. I've been thinking, but talking to a person who is keeping an eye on Army. If SMU, if the Pac-12 was able to get a contract, hold together, or they get imploded somehow a little bit, and they add an SMU away from the ACC, a person is keeping an eye, has some intel communication with the Army joining the ACC. So we're going to keep an eye on that possibility. Again, we're a long ways away from that, but just to put that out there, somebody's keeping an eye on that situation. Army to the AAC. If things go...
I have my eyes in the academies.
Huh?
I said I have my eyes in the academies. I actually have them in that little private university conference thing of mine, all three of them, because they are very highly rated academically. And I think that
now the last time
them for the AAC, I think they're the competition in that but that
the last time Army was in a conference was in Conference USA for 7 years, and they got absolutely destroyed competitively. Yeah. So they don't want to go through that again. So I don't know, but I guess
I don't think the Americans could fit. I think it's going to get strong.
Yeah,
it's going to be a little too strong. But there's some options for them, I think, and I think that they're a good brand to have in your conference if they can be competitive towards they're not getting trounced, because it doesn't look good on TV if you're just trouncing Army.
Yeah.
Kind of distasteful, but I think that there's going to be a lot more going on in that area where people aren't watching, and that's down in the G5 section. I think there's going to be a lot of jumping around here in the near future, and that's what's interesting about the Mountain West right now is there some type of cloak and dagger going on there? Because we know Colorado State and Air Force won it out. Boise State's kind of the anchor there, but if all of a sudden Boise State's like, no, we don't want any part of that, and we could get just as much or more in the AAC, maybe we're open to that too, then that's the dam breaking right there. If Boise State decides to go, it's over. And they can't merge because Hawaii is there.
Yeah.
They cannot merge because no one's going to take them as a merging. So it's going to have to be ugly. It's going to have to break apart, and then a lot of moves. But we'll see. But good to hear that I'm interested to see what goes on here with the ACC.
Yeah,
like you're saying.
we're gonna probably have to open up a new a second play, an ACC play in the Holy Smokes Theater. But we're gonna wait a couple weeks to see if if there's any public communications out there. So yeah, the Holy Smokes Theater might be having two plays going on at the same time. Both plays up on the marquee. Well, we'll see what happens, Brian.
Can I place my bet drop before I go on what school I think that the leak will come from?
Go ahead.
Miami.
Okay.
There it is. Just putting it out there. I think they're the Magnificent Seven leak, and I think they'll be this one. So we'll see how that goes.
You might be right. Good man. You might be right. Okay. Thank you so much. Great call.
Thanks for having me, man. Have a great
Beautiful.
day.
Great call from Brian Immaculate. Again, the lines are open, 763-260-1333. On an earlier episode today, if you want to, take a look at it, episode 257, we talked about NIL. New York State changed its laws for NIL in Florida, putting at least $400 million into the makeover of the Swamp, their football stadium, their football field. So go check out episode 257 we put out there earlier today. If you want to call in and talk about those two subjects, go right ahead. So much going on in college football. We're trying to cover it, everything, and peek around the corner. We're not for everybody. We love to cover everything in college football. We just had a top 5 sleepers for the 2023 season. Couple episodes ago on our YouTube channel. Number 5 was Liberty. Possible New Year's Day Bowl, New Year's Six Bowl. Liberty was number 5. Number 4 was UTSA. Number 3 was Miami, Florida. Number 2 was Baylor. Number 1 was Kentucky. That was the PATC's top 5 sleepers for the 2023 season to get to a New Year's Bowl game. Of course, throughout the whole episode, I didn't say New Year's Bowl. I kept saying New Year's Six Bowl. New York Six Bowl, whatever. I was saying it incorrectly. I lost my mind, and I wasn't going to change the episode. I just put it out there with all my mistakes. But you get the point. Top 5 sleepers. Those are my top 5 sleepers to get to New Year's Six Bowl. Let me know what your top sleepers are to have a very good season for the 2023. But I think Kentucky, I think they're ready. If they rebuild that offensive line, I think they got everything in place. They got the quarterback, Leary, the transfer from North Carolina State. I love their defensive coordinator. The offensive coordinator has come back. They've got some players. Let's go, Kentucky. Let's go. Again, the phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. Nebraska is now Rutgers in football. I like to rip on Nebraska more than everybody else. But Nebraska is not Rutgers in football. Now when it comes to brand, the fan base, the money that comes in, the eyeballs, the wins, yes, but not the total value.
Call from
Craig Kirsch.
Craig Kirsch is in the house. The floor is yours. What do you got to say, good sir?
How you doing, Greg?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. A little tired, but I'm doing good.
Okay, there's a couple things I want to talk about. One is this Patc deal that supposedly it looks like Apple's going to be a part of it. For 5 or 6 months, I have said that if Apple gets it, the TV ratings will drop 90 to 95%. And now I'm going to give you numbers to prove my point.
Okay.
First off, the NFL Direct Ticket only has 1.5 million subscribers, and the NFL is far, far more valuable than the Patc, or more popular than the Patc. And plus, they've had decades to build up their customer base.
Yeah.
Second, Champions League Soccer is on CBS and Paramount Plus. The ratings are 67% less on Paramount than on CBS. And the huge difference is Paramount is only $5 a month, and it has 62 million subscribers. And it's still 67% less their TV rating. And third, the big one, Valley Sports Streaming. It's been in business almost 10 months, and they only have 203,000 subscribers, and they are off on their projections by 55%.
Yeah.
I have said to a couple other people that if Apple gets the deal, they will have a maximum of 200,000 subscribers total. I hear people talking million, 5 million, 10 million people will sign up for Apple. It will be a miracle to get 200,000 people to sign up. And if they get 200,000 people to sign up, TV ratings, if you only have 200,000 people that are even eligible to watch the game, and you figure 20% of the people at any time won't be able to watch it or at weddings or on vacation or whatever, you're looking at a maximum of 150,000 people to watch a game. Now, the Oregon State game last year drew 3.6 million. Well, if you take 100,000, 150,000 watching the game, subtract that from 3.6 million, you're well over 95% off. And then you get the smaller games, the crappier games you want to call them, say like Arizona versus California. Those games will be lucky to draw 25,000 people. Cal and Stanford averaged 800,000 viewers last year. Their games will get 25 to 50,000. That's like a 95% drop. There's no way that I don't understand why these four corner schools can't see that the ratings are going to plummet to catastrophic levels and be totally irrelevant. And here's the other problem that Apple has if they get this subscription.
Yep.
Football is September, October, and November. So let's say they get 200,000 subscribers, okay? And they follow the MLS deal, which is $15 a month or $100 a year. What's going to happen is people are going to be smart enough, they're going to sign up for the monthly, and what happens come December, 90% of those 200,000 people will cancel, leaving only about 20,000 Apple subscribers. Because Because if you just want it for football, you're certainly not going to keep it for the other 9 months.
Yeah.
And then what happens then come March? You got 20,000 subscribers left. Those are basketball fans. So what happens comes March? 90% of those cancel, and Apple is left with, 2,000 subscribers for March, April, May, June, July, and August when there is no Patc. It's a total disaster come from Apple, and I just don't understand why the Four Corners schools don't see, because they know Apple's part of it. They know Apple's going to be part of it, and it's going to be catastrophic. And if you take Arizona, I don't understand what Robbins is thinking, considering that the Duke, North Carolina basketball games drew 2.8 million last year. I mean, Arizona Interstate basketball games will draw like 5,000 people. You can't compete with stuff like that. So I
agree to the most part. When you say that you're asking, why can't the Four Corners schools see this? Well, we've been told that Peek Around the Corner from the Arizona State Money Perch, from the very first letter email that he sent us, January 31st, that they do see it. I mean, Arizona schools do not, according to what we're being told, are not going to be for this heavy streaming deal. They're not going to be for a heavy streaming deal. Now, Robbins has said that out in public, right? The Arizona president. Arizona State, you can take it however you want it, PATC community, but Arizona State has said this in private. And I'll just put up the words allegedly. So the Arizona schools, I don't think they're going to go for it. So now maybe George Kliavkoff can get more guaranteed linear games that aren't being sub-licensed from Apple. I don't know, Craig. I don't know how George Kliavkoff is going to pull the rabbit out of the old hat, but I do think the Four Corners schools see what you're saying. I really do.
Okay. MLS has been a catastrophic failure, and it'll be even worse for Apple with the Patc. MLS has huge advantages over the Patc. I mean, they play 10 months worth of soccer, which is what everybody wants, compared to only 3 months of football. The Patc has competition from other conferences. MLS has no competition from mid-afternoon Saturdays to evening. It's national compared to regional. It's gonna be a catastrophic disaster. And what I think is going to wind up happening, if they would agree to a deal, Apple, let's say it's going to be 5 years. At the end of 5 years, Apple's going to back out. They're going to see it's a disaster, and they're not going to renew. They're not just going to throw away a couple $100 million a year and not have any subscribers. That don't make any sense. So yeah, there won't be but 200,000 people sign up. I know Larry Pilgrim. I talk to Larry all the time on different YouTube channels. He told me there was going to be 1 million people sign up. I laughed so hard, Greg. I like Larry a lot. We don't agree on anything, but I like talking to him. And most Patc fans I saw one Patc fan said 15 million. That's just a joke. So anyway, that's the first part, why I don't understand why these Four Corners schools haven't sold for the Big 12. And the second thing here I want to talk about, I'm not sure anyone knows about this, what's going to happen. Right now, ESPN has all 5 of the Power 5 conferences. And
they don't have Big 10 anymore. That's done.
No, right, but they do right now.
No, they don't.
Well, no, it ended, but they did have it.
Yeah, they did have, but they don't have it anymore.
Right.
I mean, that contract is now over. July 4th,
right, so
absolutely over.
Yeah, they had all 5.
Yes, okay.
So what is going to happen? You put this on your screen a few times ago about the games that are being played at the Patc schools from SEC, Big 12, and ACC. ESPN is going to cancel every single game that's played at a Patc school. They'll pay the buyout of, say, $500,000. I think the one game was Florida State at Washington, or Florida State at Utah. ESPN is going to cancel those games because they aren't going to get those games, and they'll make a heck of a lot more money buying out the $500,000 and scheduling another home game. You see what I mean, Greg?
Yeah, no, I get it. I think there's a fear of that happening for those top Pac-12 schools. There's no question about it.
All those games are being canceled, but here's the other fear then. Going forward, nobody is going to schedule the Pac. There's no way ESPN is going to allow, Utah and Florida are finishing up a home and home. There's no way going forward that ESPN would allow, say, Florida State to schedule a home and home with Utah and just give away a game to the Pac, either to Apple or CW or whoever. They're not going to get that. They're going to tell them to schedule BYU if you want to go to Utah, the state of Utah. The Pac will be totally isolated on future scheduling. They will be restricted to simply Mountain West schools.
I will say this. If I kind of judge. Sometimes I just judge things based upon myself as a fan. I love college football. I love all of college football. I watch Pac-12, Big 12, SEC, Big 10, ACC. I watch FCS. I watch North Dakota. I watch the FCS playoffs. I even go to some YouTube channels and watch a St. Thomas, Minnesota Pioneer football game that somebody streamed on. I'm watching college football, paying attention to all of it. I love it. That's why we have the YouTube channel. But I'll say this. I just know this. I'm not saying I'm... If the Pac-12 goes to Apple TV, where most of their games are being played, I'm going to watch less Pac-12 games than I ever have before next year, or whenever the first year of the contract. Now, maybe that will change. I'm 55 years old. Most people are younger than me, so maybe it's... I don't know. All I know is that maybe 4 or 5 years from now, Apple TV, I'll be watching a whole bunch of stuff on Apple TV. But right now, I can tell you, I'm not going to be that, a fan that says, oh, I'm going to be searching the ESPN, Fox Sports 1, ESPN 2. I'm going to be doing all that, CBS, NBC, ABC. And sometimes, most of the time, I'm going to forget about Apple TV, Pac football. That's just me, but so I get it. I think there's a fear there. I think there should be a fear for some of those Pac-12 big-time schools having to sign a grant of rights or some sort of contract agreement with Apple TV for the next 3 or 4 years. I think it's a very risky play.
Yes, it is. And as far as G5 schools go, this is what's going to happen. The Pac will be restricted to the Mountain West. The Big Ten, which already is pretty much restricted to the MAC. They only schedule MAC schools to help them out. But then the American, the Sun Belt, and Conference USA will only schedule teams from the SEC, the Big 12, or the ACC. Why would ESPN let's say Tulane becomes a powerhouse, total powerhouse like Boise State, Cincinnati? Do you think ESPN is going to let them schedule Utah? No way. And lose that game that Apple, those games aren't getting scheduled. I don't know why the Four Corners schools have to see what the scheduling in the future is going to look like. They're not going to have any teams. They're going to be restricted simply to the MAC or the Mountain West. They need to pull their head out of there, and go to the Big 12. And I don't know why they're waiting. They know the deal's with Apple. They should vote now.
Yeah.
And then one other thing, I know you keep talking, Greg, that they're going to go back out west. And, we think it's Oregon and Washington. Here's my worry with that. If the ACC blows up first, now I'm not saying the Big Ten is going to get these 4 schools, but if they would happen to land, Notre Dame, Florida State, Clemson, and Miami, the 4 big ones as far as football goes, why would they ever go back out west? Two problems they have. One, Fox, CBS, and NBC are not going to pay for any more schools that are dilutive. Oregon and Washington, they aren't going to be worth like $80 million. But the bigger problem is this: that why would Florida State, Clemson, and Miami why would they agree to further expansion? You need 75%, which would be 15 out of the 20. I don't think you'll ever get 15 schools to agree. Those three wouldn't. Why would Maryland, Rutgers ever agree to go out west for less money? There's 5. Penn State, why would they agree? And Northwestern, Purdue, Indiana, I don't think you're ever getting 15 votes to expand again out west.
Well, first of all, 2 reasons. First of all, I don't think Big Ten is going to have Clemson in the conference. They're probably not going to have Florida State in the conference. They might, but they're probably not. They're probably not going to get all those 4 schools. But secondly, I think people are underestimating why. Let me flip the script on all these big power football schools in the Big Ten. Why would you want USC and UCLA to have all that recruiting grounds by themselves, be the only 2 schools in the top 2 conferences west of Lincoln? Why would you want that to happen? Why would Penn State not want more competition for USC to battle for those top recruits on the Pacific Coast, along with against an Oregon, against a Washington? Why would you let them have all of that? Remember, years down the road, if it stays the way it is, and if USC and UCLA are the only teams out in the Pacific Coast, they're in the Big Ten, they're going to be making millions and millions and millions, 40, 35, 40 million more a year every single year than Oregon and Washington, just on media money alone. And then you put in the exposure. I mean, it sounds great, right? But my goodness, why would you want USC and UCLA to have all of that by themselves? They're not going to have it all by themselves. Of course, Ohio State gets top recruits out there and some others. But man, I'm not buying it. And again, you're only going to have 2 schools west of Lincoln in a 24-team conference. UCLA and USC are only going to have 1 game in their time zone, 2 time zones away. I'm just not buying it. Not from what we've heard. I would have to just disagree with you and a lot of people in the chat room. I don't see it happening.
Well, no, Greg, I actually am with you. I actually think they're going to take 2 more. But if they get it now, what?
Okay, but I'm giving you the reasons why. Again, why would these schools that are let's say they add a Miami, Florida, and a Notre Dame and a North Carolina. They're battling. Notre Dame gets a lot of athletes or they try to, out in California, no question about it. But all these East Coast big-time football programs, big-time Midwest programs, again, why would you have the whole entire region, western region of the country? There's some good football players out in California, Arizona. Why would you just let USC have all that run out there in UCLA? I don't think you will. And again, I don't see it happening.
Well, I like I said, I agree with you. I think they're going to take 2 more out there, but if you get to 20 schools first, you're going to have to get 15 of them to agree to expand out west. I'm just questioning whether you're going to get 15.
That's fine. All I can say is the total composition of the Big Ten Conference is not 22 schools east of Lincoln and 2 out west of Lincoln. It's just not going to happen. I don't know what else. I have been told this, and it's okay. People disagree. That's fine. But these, eventually, even the Midwest Western schools, right? A Nebraska, an Iowa, a Minnesota. All this Eastern expansion in the East Coast, I don't know. I'm not seeing that composition working And a lot of people in the Big Ten are not seeing that composition working. That's why there was further talks with Oregon and Washington. I just think people are, yes, the Big Ten's going to expand to the East. We're all in consensus on that. But to leave those two LA schools all alone, 1,200 miles away from Lincoln, 2 time zones away from Lincoln, all to themselves, I just don't think it's going to happen.
No, what I think is going to happen is Colorado and Arizona are going to bolt soon, and then Oregon and Washington are going to the Big Ten in the next month or two. That's what I see happening.
It could. It's a long shot. The timing may not work out, but it could. We shall see. We're all waiting on Colorado's decision here.
Yeah, that's true. And if the last thing is, if what you said was true, where the Big Ten is not going to take Oregon and Washington unless the Pac explodes. First of all, why would Oregon and Washington sign anything with the Pac if they know that they need someone else from the Big 12 to raid the Pac first? Why would Oregon and Washington ever sign anything? Why not just keep holding out to Arizona and Colorado, get fed up, leave, and then they jump to the Big Ten?
Well, unless they get told by the Big Ten directly, there's no shot for you to come to our conference for the next 4 or 5 years. I don't think they've been told that, but if they do get told that, then they would sign something, right? So
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
we don't know what they've been told.
Yeah.
So that's all I got to say,
Thanks.
Greg.
Great phone call, Greg. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good 4th of July, buddy.
Okay, all right. Jason, I'm still not sold on West Coast recruits wanting to go USC, UCLA, and travel across the country every other week. There's going to be a lot of negative recruiting. A lot of people are going to use a lot of stuff on USC, UCLA. I mean, you know, it hasn't even started yet, right? The first season hasn't even begun. The stories that are written about this travel issue, the Big Ten, is going to be, like, there's going to be a story every week. And the Big Ten's going to have to answer to it over and over and over again. Now, Washington and Oregon, adding those 2 schools does not solve all the travel issues. It barely solves any at all. But again, you know how optics are. There's going to be a lot of pressure to add a couple of schools out west. Well, there already is. But anyways, John Telly, thanks for the super chat. Appreciate it. Stanford, California, Oregon, Washington, plus 4 ACC schools equal 24 team Big Ten. Easy ass pie. Thanks for the super chat, John. I appreciate it. Appreciate your generosity once again so very much. A lot of people think that's what's going to happen. We shall see. Long ways away from that. Sounds like a big storm hitting our house right now. Peek around the corner studios. Oh yeah, it's coming down. It's coming down. I think we're going to close up the live show for today, July 4th. The morning edition. Happy Independence Day. Thank you for everybody joining us today. I want to thank all of you who smashed that like button, who are sharing the video, new subscribers to our channel. I appreciate it so very much. We talked about a lot of things in this live show. That ragged old flag, Johnny Cash poem that I love so very much. Independence Day, San Diego State. They're getting their lawyers involved. Look out. July 17th, Mountain West Conference meeting. Will it just get decided July 17th? Mountain West says, okay, San Diego State, you're back in. Lawyers all go home. That could very well happen. Jim Williams states that Miami, Florida, and North Carolina are the top targets in ACC country for the Big Ten. We agree here at Peek Around the Corner, and the California bill that has direct payments to the student athletes directed by the state of California. That bill has been delayed, thank goodness. Hopefully it never comes to light for a lot of reasons that we've talked about before. Thank you so much. If you're new to the show, please subscribe to our channel. That way you get notified of our next live show. It could pop up at any time. It could pop up tomorrow, July 5th, July 6th, July 7th, as we head towards Big 12 meetings on July 12th and 13th, and Pac-12 meetings on July 21st. Holy smokes. And we're going to continue to talk about the upcoming football season as we get closer to the August camp, the quarterback battles across the country. Who's going to come out being the starting quarterback of the Ohio State Buckeyes, Brown or McCord? There's a whole bunch of battles going on in the month of August coming up, so stick with us here at Peek Around the Corner. Until next time, from all of us at PATC, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.